Well, Bernard, we're going to start this week's episode of the podcast in with the devastating news, obviously that has gone around now, and people know in the rugby circles on the Central Coast that the tragic passing of young Harry McWilliam during the week in a workplace incident, which has just shattered the Terrigal community and the broader rugby community. It's been a horrible week. And with that, just wanted to take a moment to sort of remember a great young human being who has passed away way too early under tragic circumstances. And just give our respects to Harry and the unfortunate events that's happened. I think it's also important that we take a moment to reflect on what a great young human he was, not just as a young, promising, and really good rugby player, but also just as a genuine human being. He's very active in a broader community sense, involved in musicals, and just put his whole effort into life, and was just a great young fellow. I know personally, my heart breaks for Nutter and all his family and everyone who. Obviously very close to the McWilliam family and the Terrigal Club in general. So extremely tough week, pal. Extremely tough week.
Yeah, nice words, mate. Well said. Echo your sentiments there. It's obviously a very rough week for the rugby community, particular, Terrigal, all his family and the whole community there. And some nice tributes that were coming in on the socials and also in person. That happened as well. If you want to touch on those from Saturday night.
Yeah. Look, it was just a shout out, and I might as well do it now. The Terrigal Rugby Club got a hold of me and really wanted to sincerely thank the Avoca Beach Rugby Club and the members and the Razorbacks, especially the players who came to have a drink at the Terrigal Rugby Club on Saturday after the Trojans went out and played their match. Obviously under difficult circumstances. I'm sure there was some more from other clubs, but certainly the Razorbacks and the Sharks. Some of their players came up and had a beer at the Terrigal Rugby Club in honour of young Harry. Brilliantly, Nutter was there trying to, it was just great to see the players get around him and offer a little bit of support. So a shout out to all those players. It's on the Terrigal socials, but the club wanted me to get on and express their sincerest thank you to everyone in the rugby community on the Central Coast, not just the Sharks and the Razorbacks, but everyone. There's across the coast. All clubs retired their number 2 jersey on the day, and I think it's just a great gesture and shows you what a fantastic community our rugby community is. We bang on about it all the time, but we've certainly come together in it's what's been a trying time. And the thing to remember too is whilst it'll get easier for a lot of people, it's when life starts to get back to normal that those who are closest to him really start to do it toughest. So keep him in mind, keep him in your prayers and thoughts, and it's been a tough week.
Well said, mate. Well, it's hard to jump into an episode on the back of that, unfortunately, mate, but very well said. Some beautiful words for Harry. Coming up on this week's episode, it's really different because we don't actually have games on this weekend. We do. We don't have Premier 1 games on. We've only the women's competition that is on, which we'll get to, which is round 20 and 21. So it took me a little bit of time to find it, and that's probably hence the weird name of this episode is what you're wondering why we've got 12 or whatever up to 20. So let's get into what do you want to start with, mate? Do you want to go Premier 1 or do you want to go the women's?
Well, the women's is a little bit more exciting because it's a bit tighter. So let's cover off on Premier 1 and what was I guess the horrifying round in regards to results. 300 and something points for the winning sides, and I think there's about 27 or 34 points for the losing sides. So
that's good maths from you. I like that. Those are good stats from you.
It's pretty much
Hey,
1 point.
This is what you do. This is why we value you, mate, here at B&B.
1 point and 10. 1 point versus 10. Anyway, so let's go through the results, pal. Actually, you know what? Let's start off with the Trojans going up there to Lake Macquarie, Bullaroo. Quick shout out. The club sort of passed on about how fantastic and understanding the Lake Macquarie club was in what was obviously a very, very tough day for the Terrigal club, but they went in and got on with the job. 108-0, I think, Burner, is that right?
Yeah, 108-0, mate. Adam Dankert only kicking 14 from 16, so he's got a bit of work to do there. Yeah. I'm just looking through the list there. I'm trying to count up the try scorers compared to how many conversions he's got. Freak, absolute freak. So. Yeah, 108-0, mate. So obviously made the trip up under very difficult circumstances, and still put on a very good effort up against Lake Macquarie at home. Yeah, convincing victory. We sort of thought, you said last week, I think Lake Macquarie would be happy to get within 70 or 80 of them.
Yeah.
Terrigal too good. Yeah,
and I think it's also a case of sort of blowing the shackles out a little bit. We touched on it last week. I don't think Terrigal would have been overly happy with their performance against the Razorbacks the week before, even though they snuck home with the victory. So I guess there's a good opportunity for players to sort of get back to their Saturday routine, put an absolute awful week behind them at least for 80 minutes anyway, and really sort of get in and rip in and get rid of some frustrations and some negative energies. And they did that well. 108 points to nil is an absolute thrashing. So well done to the Trojans. Well done to Lake Macquarie in what was a very difficult day.
Mate, I hate to tell you, but this whole scoreline really goes against your statistics on Lake Macquarie. I know you've been very pro Lake Macquarie with your stats, but this is really backwards. This is times 2 points for the week, mate. So it's a minor setback. We still got about 6 rounds to go, I think it is. So
every now and then you got to have a bit of an off day. So
yeah.
My Roos, mate, they'll be back.
All right, good to hear. The other one, mate, and this gets our exquisite exterior cleanup of the week. Well, we've got a couple of them recently, mate. That could be sponsored by Exquisite Exterior.
I don't think we should give it to Woolboy, to be honest. I think Warnervale should get it for only cleaning up 129-0.
So absolute flogging, 129 points to nil. Warnervale travel down to Woy. I feel like there's two sides to both of it that we say every single week that we're happy with. Clubs are doing the right thing, fielding teams is good energy, but you got to take your hat off to Warnervale. 129 points, absolutely clinical. Different try scorers, not the same people every single time. A real team
21,
effort.
21 tries. Did I just count that right?
You probably did. Looks like a lot. I'm going to guess. Yeah. I'm going to guess 21. A lot of names there.
Now, just want to quickly digress. Actually, 22 with the penalty try.
Yeah.
Do you hold the record as the captain of the biggest defeat in the club's history?
Yeah, 121. That's cute.
I love the conviction and the confidence. You've just gone, yep, I own it. That's me. I've got it.
You know what? I see the losses and I'm watching the game. I'm like, geez, this is rough. I'm like, they haven't touched me yet. 133. So Warnervale, one more try, and you would have dethroned me, but you haven't done it just yet. So 133 is the record that I hold. Very proud record I hold for Woy. Also, I believe the only, unless there was something in the early days, but the only Woy captain to captain his side to a winless season, which is very hard to do. So
there you go.
That's another one.
There you go. Breaking records.
That's easy, man. They've already had a win this season, so it won't be broken this weekend. Just this game, mate. It's obviously generated a lot of discussion from the Woy perspective. I'm like, what's going on? Like, how can you survive almost in a Premier 1 competition with this sort of stuff? And these score lines, and it's absolutely clinical from Warnervale to keep going. And we keep on saying that when you've got a team there that's ready to be put to the sword, you've got to put them to the sword. You can't relax at 60, 70 points when Woy finished the game with 11 players. There's a photo Max Edwards put up, and if anyone knows Maxi, owns Edward Fannery Butchery. went and got his apprentice to run out and play, rugby with him. This is first grade rugby we're talking about because they were down on numbers. So the apprentice probably thought he was doing some shit jobs that day, but not getting done by 130. And I think
you want to keep working here, pal. Get your boots and get out in the middle.
Here's a jersey. Tape your shoulder up. Let's go. And then I spoke to Steve Hopwood today and said, "How was it?" And he goes, "Mate, it's weird. The culture's really good." He goes, I experienced it last week when I was there. It's like there's a group of people down there, and they've got good numbers. They've got a lot of injuries, and part of the reason they got the injuries, and they're decent injuries as well. We heard about a couple last week. It's just because they don't have that rugby experience, unfortunately, and they're up against very good players, and they're up against the Warnervale pack. They're big boys, and when you're tackling repeatedly against them, like unfortunately sometimes there's injuries, and that's a bit of a tough one because in a couple of years' time, I think that Woo is going to be something really good, and they've got to lay that foundation first before they can have players that want to come and play really competitively. And they all want to learn every game. They want to learn, but they're just nowhere near the benchmark at the moment. And obviously, if you're playing with the next start of the game with 14 players, so if you're playing with a man down against the teams that we got, especially the top 5 in our competition, you're just going to get absolutely flogged. So, but mate, again, outstanding. This is a huge result for Warnervale. They'd be absolutely stoked. That's their biggest win probably ever, I would say. I wouldn't say they've gotten a big win. I don't think they've gotten a big one than that.
Nah, they'd have to be. They're not real often that clubs get into the 20s. Every now and then you'll get a team break into the hundreds. But certainly not when you start continue on and piling it on. So no, it'd have to be their biggest win. What a massive win! Well done, Wildcats.
All right, and the next game, Avoca beat Hornsby 56 points to 14.
Yeah, it's the Avoca side that we know, and I think it's a little bit back to more their structured side. We saw against previously how they when they went up to the Roos, I think they had a bit of a different lineup, but they went back to a little bit more of their traditional players in their positions, and a good dominating performance, and it really makes life pretty much. Not going to close the door entirely on them, but with Warnervale hitting their straps, it's going to be very, very difficult for Hornsby to make that fifth position. And I think the Sharks are just doing what they need to do now. They're in a position where they can just hold off the rest of the competition, keep on to that number one spot, and that'll all, I guess, culminate in the end of the year when they meet Terrigal again in the last round of the season. But yeah, great performance by the Sharks.
And mate, we do have to clear something up though about Avoca. Last week we did say Sam Evans. There were some contractual obligations going on, and the reason that he was out of the side was because he wants to prove his worth. We obviously forgot, and I don't know why, because we've been banging on about him all year, that Sam Evans doesn't even kick goals. Theon Henderson Foley kicks the goals. So what's happened this week is Avoca's locked Sam down long term after our words with them last week publicly. They've locked Sam down. Sam has kicked 3 from 10. And what Theon's done is, and Theon has taken the week off here because Theon obviously wants to prove his worth. So Avoca has to lock Theon down long term because Theon's had 2 weeks out and their conversion rates are shocking. So Sam Evans, we hailed him. We touted him as the god, needs to come back in the side. Obviously it works for their attack. It's not working for their conversions. Theon needs to be back. He needs to be back, well, actually, mate. 3 from 10 is just not good enough.
Well, word on the streets is that Sam Evans actually kicked 3 from 3. It was after Mitch McGrath didn't kick one from 7 attempts, is when Sam took over. And the only reason I say that because I know how much Mitch McGrath would hate hanging shit on him, but he had absolutely nothing to do with it. But let's blame the halfback anyway.
You know what? I like that. I like that. Mitch McGrath, 0 from 7. Sam Evans comes in at the end slots last 3. I like that. Mitch McGrath. Let's bang on him. All right. Good win, Avoca. Good stuff. Hunter Bird, 2 from 2 conversions as well. Give Hunter a shout out for 100% conversion rates. Exactly the same as Sam Evans, 100%. McGrath, 0. And last game of the week, mate. Razorbacks travelled to Slade Park and got the win, 61 points to 17. This was a very close match, and Razorbacks ran away with it in the end. It's way too much class. Rob Peden, how many tries does he score each week? He's got a hat-trick this week. Can conversions. 2, 4, 6, 8 from.
Well, it's just
Eight,
it's
eight
quite
from 9 conversions from Ryan Fenning as well. It's good stuff.
it's their fitness levels and the fact that they're a better drilled side who have had more continuity in their game and throughout the season, and that's why we saw the scoreline start to blow out in the last sort of 20 minutes or so. Because just the simple fact the Razorbacks are a quality side, they're a class side, and you know the poor old Lakes are. I think that's curtains for them for their season. But hopefully they can start to work on some combinations, getting some good vibes in there, and getting some players to start hanging around, see the rest of this year out, and start to plan for next year. Because I think that's curtains on their season in regards to semi-finals, at least, anyway.
Yeah, Jade Strongman got a try for you, mate. You'd be pleased to know that.
Yes, fantastic. Good
Right,
player out of luck, Jade.
Let's go through the points table. So it's a very clear 1 to 5 at the moment, and then we have a 13-point gap between 5th and 6th, which is obviously our finals playing teams and non-finals playing teams with 31 and 18 points. First place is Avoca on 49. Second is Terrigal on 44. Razorbacks in third on 42. Gosford in fourth on 34. Warnervale in fifth on 31. And then the bottom four are Hornsby on 18, Lakes in 7th on 13, Woowee 8th on 7, and Lake Macquarie still duck egg. And out of that, we still have we've only had Warnervale, Gosford, and Terrigal that have had the bye so far, so they're going to creep up a little bit further on Razorbacks and Avoca as they move forward as well. So pretty clear gap, mate. It's obviously in a bit of a different, I suppose. It's panning out a lot differently to what it has in previous years. With maybe only one team that's, I suppose, in the predicament, maybe say like a Hornsby or a Lakes Rim where they're sort of getting beaten by 40 points. That was sort of what we're at. But we're at the point in the time now where we've got really two clubs that are, getting hammered by a fair bit. So very interesting times, mate. What do you think? What do you reckon about it?
Look, mate, I think we might cover off a little bit more detail after we cover off the women's, but it's an interesting quandary to have in regards to there's clearly 5 competitive sides in the competition. We'll say, well, that's probably been a little bit disrespectful to.
I think we can say 7. I think we can say 7.
Yeah, I was going to say Lakes, whilst they haven't been winning, have been competitive, and Hornsby have been competitive. So I shouldn't say that. Hornsby have been competitive, but when poor old Lake Macquarie and Woowee are getting 100 points put on them regularly, it doesn't look good. It's not good, and it's not good for the development of the game. But we bang on about it all the time. You got to start somewhere, and you got to really sort of do the tough yards. I mean, you're an example. You played and captain Woowee through those tough years. Gosford, Benny Shelley, as mentioned many times, and not just Ben, there are quite a few of the Gosford players who are still kicking around now. They were getting beaten by 90-odd points last year, and they've stuck at it. The collapse of Carryong has helped. Let's not beat around the bush in regards to that. That's factual. But if they weren't in a position there, then obviously they weren't in a position to grow. So, it's a difficult one. But I'll put a few of my ideas on it a little bit later on.
Yep, easy.
What about the women? Let's look at the women.
Let's do it.
Love the women.
Can you let me get a second breaker in there before you talk?
Yeah. 28-0. I hate that. I hate the look of that.
Hold on, mate. I'm at round 20. Let me get back to whatever round we're at in the week.
Oh, yeah, sorry. That's right. We got it wrong. We've got to go back to round 11 or something, don't we?
No, we're good. Round 12.
Round 12, sorry. Yeah. I was looking at the first round of the competition, which was round bloody 19.
You said this on the weekend as well. And you're like, mate, there's a forfeit.
Yeah. No, and how could I think that when I've seen the wonderful images, the raptures of the Woowee crowd when the Woowee women scoring the try? I think it might be their first try for the season. And what an absolute screamer. If you haven't seen it, do yourself a favour and get and watch Name Withheld run through the pack and score an absolute screamer of a try. It was a cracker. And you see that and you go, How the hell the Woolworths side not scoring more tries? That was fantastic. What a great set piece. Unfortunately, it was their only 5 points, and Warnervale scored 29 of them. So the best performance by far by the Woolworth women. But big congratulations to Warnervale because they had a good win.
It does make it a little bit more interesting coming into this weekend and with the ladder as well, which we'll get to later on. So good win by Warnervale, 29 points to 5. Much needed win for them, which is awesome to see for the Wildcat women. The next game, Lakes defeat Razorbacks in a game that we probably thought we weren't sure which way this was kind of going to go, but pretty emphatic by the Lakes, 24 points to 0, keeping the Razorbacks scoreless, mate.
Yeah, I think sometimes the 24-0, well, the nil can to mask what's been a competitive game.
Yeah.
As you know, in the women's game, it only takes 1 or 2 line breaks and you can get in and away.
Yeah.
So obviously a really competitive match. I thought it might have been maybe a little bit closer. I was surprised, and congratulations to Lakes on their defensive effort, shutting down the Razorback pack and the women. But if the Razorbacks were at full strength, that was an absolutely cracking effort by Lakes women, and who are really proving themselves to be semi-final worthy team this year. So great win by the Lakes women, and I think if the Razorback women would have been smart, they would have gone, well, we're going to be playing the Lakes first round of the competition, first round of the semis, sudden death. So let's go to school, learn what we need to learn, put that in our pocket, and get ready for about 5 weeks' time.
And last game of the week, Hornsby hosts Avoca, but Avoca with a very convincing victory, 52 points to 0. We know Hornsby are struggling for numbers. I don't care. It's 52. That doesn't bother me. I'm pleased with that. I'd rather that than 28. So we got a game on the weekend, and Mitch McGrath needs to watch Jada Staben as well. Kicked 6 from 8.
It's an outstanding effort. Just quickly, knowing Mitch, he'll be writhing listening to this at the moment.
Oh, mate. I reckon he's probably, this is the point where he's stopped the podcast. He's grabbed his phone, he's pressed pause. This is where he's writing some sort of constructive DM to us.
Get ready for some advice on our social media account. No, let's get back to the women because they're travelling well. It also got. Remember we spoke last week. It wasn't too sure if you could share players because of insurance reasons, that sort of stuff. Yes, you absolutely can. The Central Coast are really encouraging, the clubs like Hornsby to show up, which they did on the weekend, which is brilliant, and obviously sharing players as much as they can so everyone's getting a run. So really good outcome there. We just got to do what we've got to do to get through some tough times here with Hornsby because we know they're a good outfit. They're just obviously women away and some injuries has really cruelled their season. So good victory by the Avoca Beach women. I think a much needed victory too, to be honest. I think they've got a little bit of the wobbles after that Terrigal game. I know they were under strength, and I know they were missing quite a few players, but it's. I think it's good to see them getting back in the winner's circle anyway.
Yep. All right, let's have a look at the ladder for them, mate. I'm just going to adjust your mic. Sorry, mate.
Too loud in my pal.
Every now and then, it's probably every 3 or 4 minutes, your mic does a little like crackly thing, and it's what Mitch Briggs furious about. And I figured out. I've just got to change the setting. I've got to mute you really quickly for every couple of minutes. So I'm just.
I think I've worked out what it is.
You're the problem, mate.
Yeah, I've been playing with my cord.
Probably.
I have. Look.
Yeah, probably. That's probably what it is.
Yeah.
You never told me this before.
No, that's just then. Just this podcast. Everything else has been 100% your fault.
No, you're kidding. All right,
what's the ladder look like, pal?
First place, Terrigal, 10 wins from 10 games on 50 points. Avoca are in second on 45 points. Lakes are in third on 38. Razorbacks are in fourth on 28. So now a 10-point gap between third and fourth, which doesn't really matter too much. What it does do is it pretty much locks Lakes into the finals. Razorbacks, though, 8 points in front of Hornsby and Warnervale. So Hornsby's in 5th on 20 points. Warnervale's in 6th on 20 points. Just obviously the points differential there. But it's only 8 points now between 4th and 5th/6th. So it does make it very interesting, especially with this weekend's sort of gala day formatted games. We could have a bit of a shift there.
I'll be cheering on my Wildcat women because I think they're going to be more a chance of catching Razorbacks than Hornsby.
Yeah, I think Hornsby are going to struggle to accrue points, but if Warnervale can get it together, there's still a faint hope. It's not completely written off. I don't think anyone can catch Lakes in 3rd, but might be a sniff at Razorbacks there. And
the simple fact is,
on 1 point.
Sorry, mate. The simple fact is, whenever Warnervale play the Razorbacks, they're going to have to beat them.
Yep.
And that is primed for the last round of the competition.
All right, let's get into this weekend's games. So that was the results. Thanks for Gus and the team at Erina Podiatry, which we didn't mention. So what we're going to do now, because contractual obligations. Gus, you there, mate? Gus, thumbs up.
Hello, mate. Just thumbs up. You.
He's got us.
All right.
Thanks, Gus. We appreciate your efforts. We appreciate your funding, obviously, to keep it going. And we'll mention your name a little bit earlier next time. All right, let's get into the games for this weekend. All right, so there are no men's games this weekend at all. The round was left spare in case we needed any wet weather rounds. You did forecast there was going to be wet weather, Barthy, so they've dedicated a round based on an absolute piece of shit that you have spun, and there's been no wet weather, so now everyone's got a weekend off. So thanks, mate. The competition.
Mate. More to the point. It's thankfully so I don't have to grind my axe anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's that's why it's all come about. But yeah, look.
Is this Kate trying to shut you up? Be like, oh,
yeah. Stick up your ass, Barthy. We're not even going to play this weekend. That's all we think of you. So the obviously the wet weather round not needed this week, which is brilliant. How good. There's awesome. Not many years.
Absolutely awesome.
Yeah, not many years go by that you don't have to use your wet weather round, your wet weather buy, so to speak. So good opportunity for players to catch their breath after the last week and perhaps get away from footy and rest up some niggling injuries and, get away. Or they can get up to Slade Park and cheer on their women who have an awesome gala day.
They do. Don't go to Slade Park, though. Go to Carryong Oval if that's all right.
Well, go to Slade Park first to check out the juniors. And if it's not out of your way, and then back around and head down to Carryong Oval.
Just down the hill to Carryong. Yeah. Just up the hill to Carryong. Yeah. All right. Let's go through the game. So every team is playing this weekend at Carryong Oval. The game starts at 10:30. The last game will finish at 3:30. So we've got 5 hours there of rugby nonstop, back to back.
Carnival atmosphere. How good?
Yep. Absolutely huge. So if you're not doing anything this weekend, let's keep the Central Coast spirit of rugby alive. Get down there to Carryong Oval. Obviously, Slade Park in the morning if it's on your way, and then Carryong Oval at 10:30, because the first game that is playing at 10:30 is 1v2, Avoca and Terrigal. I'll go through the day, and then we'll talk about the games.
Yep. And then I want to talk about Slade Park and why it's so important.
Oh, Jesus, mate. You've lost it, all right?
Should I do it now? The reason why Slade Park's so important is because the Lakes women on the weekend had their first junior female come through the ranks all the way into first grade. So
that is awesome.
Big up to the Lakes women. They play at Slade Park, and that just lodged into my brain somewhere along the lines of, you'd be surprised what gets stuck into my brain from time to time, Berner.
No, that's a good save.
Could be worried too.
I am very worried about you all the time, consistently. That's a good save from you, though. Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, no, it's true. True.
Here's the games. So Hornsby plays.
Not at Slade Park. Are they the juniors at Slade Park, or this is the women? This is the senior women at Carryong Oval.
Oh, mate, why do I do this stuff every week?
All right, so forget about Slade Park.
We're going to play the seniors Carryong Oval. The games are Avoca Terrigal, Hornsby Woy, Razorbacks Warnervale, and then at 1 o'clock it'll be Avoca.
So who has the bye?
Terrigal Woy, and then Hornsby Warnervale. So there's two teams that will have the bye. The Lakes is the first team that has the bye in the first round of games, and
Where
then
they play?
the Razorbacks are the second team that have it. All right, I know you're trying. You're getting me good. You get me fired up here. So where else are we? So we've only got. I'm just looking at this.
Mate, people stopped listening once they found out it wasn't a Slade Park.
Hey, you have railroaded this in the shit house. All right, shut up. I'm talking through it. I'm trying to save this thing so I have to edit it as much later on. Barthy, first game of the day. Avoca played Terrigal. Who's winning?
Terrigal Beach. Terrigal Trojans. Who play at Terrigal Beach at the Haven Oval.
All right.
Yep.
Okay.
Terrigal to win. Yep.
I'm backing you on that one as well. I reckon they've got it. Well, they've had the Wood. Avoca's had it in recent years, but Terrigal far too convincing when they played Avoca a couple of weeks ago.
I'll tell you, it'll be one of the great turnarounds. Having said that, I'm expecting a far better Avoca Beach side and a stronger Avoca Beach side than when they first met. But it will be one of the great turnarounds if Avoca Beach can win against the Trojans. So Trojans for me.
All right, next game. Hornsby play Woy Woy.
Woy Woy. They got close. We backed them last week. They scored their first try of the season. They'll win. They'll scrap and they'll win. And they'll deserve the win.
I think they'll
providing Terrigal and Woy Woy, providing Terrigal don't give Hornsby any players or Avoca Beach.
Yes.
Or Lakes or Razorbacks.
That's an interesting one, actually.
Or Warnervale.
If that happens. Next game, mate. Razorbacks play Warnervale. So this is 4th v 6.
Yeah.
So if Warnervale get a good win here, let's just say it's a bonus point victory, they go within 3 of the Razorbacks. So
absolutely.
This is a critical game for the Razorbacks. They need to win this to get that breathing space ahead of Warnervale.
Absolutely. If Warnervale have to win, they're motivated. They've got to be more motivated to win. The game means more. A victory for them is more important to them than it is the Razorbacks. They need to go in with that attitude. I'm going to back the Wildcat women here to cause a bit of what would be an upset.
Okay.
My Wildcat women, baby.
How's this? Okay. I'll say this at the end. The next game, I'm going to back Razorbacks for that one. I think Razorbacks will bounce back from their last one. Next game is Avoca Lakes. Cracker. 2v3.
Yeah. Well,
it's a tough day for Avoca. Avoca play first place and third.
Yeah. That's just they're obviously just the rounds that happen.
Yeah.
But mate, what better way to play the third place team after they've already had a game? Vice versa, for that, mind you. Look, I think it's going to be a really interesting game, a really good game to go watch to see where the Lakes women are going to be buoyed. A lot of confidence from their last time out, and they really put in a dominant performance before an injury to Avoca Beach. So I think it'll be a really good game. I think Avoca probably they will go to school on that. They would have learned a lot from that match, and I'm going to back Avoca at full strength to bounce back. You going Lakes, pal?
I'm going to go Lakes.
Yeah, I think that's a fair call too, to be honest.
Yep, something about me feels Lakes for that one. I think it'll be a huge victory if they can get that. But I feel Lakes for some reason for that one. Next game, mate. Terrigal take on Woy Woy.
Yeah, tough day for the old Lions. I think they'll come off a great victory. They'll be very confident, but it'll just be a case of minimising the damage as much as possible.
Yep.
So, yeah, Trojans for me.
Yep, Trojans for me on that one as well. And then the last game of the day is Hornsby playing against Warnervale. So Hornsby obviously down on troops, in which we know we've already tipped for a loss against Woy Woy. Picture this, mate. Warnervale currently behind the Razorbacks by 8 points. If Warnervale beat them, beat Razorbacks in the first game, they'll go within 3 or 4. And then Razorbacks don't play the second game. They only play one game on the day. If Warnervale can beat Hornsby, Warnervale then leapfrog the Razorbacks, and Warnervale are into the final spot.
How about that?
That's a great turnaround.
4 weeks to go. Yeah, that makes life very interesting.
Last week when we declared the top 4 was solidified, we obviously didn't mean that at all.
Oh, the little. Little disclaimer that didn't go to air.
So that could be very interesting, mate. Who have you got? Hornsby and Warnervale.
Warnervale, my Wildcat women, baby. Yep.
I think that as well. So that again, those games start at 10:30. Barthy, what oval are you going to?
I'm going to Carryong Oval. You thought I was going to say Slade Park then, didn't you? Carryong Oval's where I'm going to watch the women.
Thanks, mate.
After I stick my head into Slade Park, check out the juniors, and then down the road to the Carryong.
So get down there. We got Razorbacks and Lakes are the only team that play once. Every other club plays twice. Again, the game started at 10:30. Avoca Terrigal, Hornsby Woy Woy, Razorbacks Warnervale, Avoca Lakes, Terrigal Woy Woy, and the last game is Hornsby and Warnervale at 2:40. So get down to Carryong Oval. Great day of rugby ahead for round 20 and 21. Well, thanks, mate. That segment was really easy for me. What do you want to chat about now?
That's good. It rolled out well, didn't it? It was smooth. It was very smooth.
I'm leaving the rest. I'm leaving the rest up to you, mate. I'll bounce off you this time.
Yeah. Well, look, we spoke about it and we alluded to the difficult time that the competition's in, just in regards to just the score lines, you know. I mean, look, let's also be fair dinkum. It's not unusual to go into different zones, different regions, and you see that there are sides that are sort of the whipping boys of the competition or the whipping girls of the competition. That's not unusual to see, but when you're starting to get two teams getting beaten by 100 plus regularly, there's some pretty major concerns, I think. Yeah, but not just necessarily for the clubs, but just for the competition and I don't really know what the solution is, because we need to try and grow and expand the game. But there's something to be said about quality over quantity, which we've sort of touched on before in the past. But to grow into quality, you need those opportunities, you know. And it's a difficult scenario for Woy and for Lakes, and it's Lakes' first year, so we obviously we give them the benefit of the doubt, and we give them the opportunity to grow as we do with Woy, because obviously Woy had to, and Lakes, mind you, had to abide by the Gosford rule with their registered players. So hopefully they can build and grow and become a little bit more of a competitive club next year, because I think both clubs are getting beaten by nearly 200 points to nil every week. Yeah. And if it's not 200 to nil, it might be 150 to nil, you know? So it's not good, but the only solution for those clubs is to keep working hard and developing a stronger culture, a good culture in their clubs, and getting some more player depth and numbers.
Because it is a tough one, because you want to grow the sport. Like, we got to, be honest as well, where rugby union sits in our country at the moment. And even after the Wallabies lost on the weekend, and we've spoken about Eddie Jones and, the Wallabies set up previously and the impact that the Wallabies have. And, they had a loss on the weekend against maybe an understrength South African side. And that kind of does dampen, it dampens my spirits a little bit anyway, reading it going, here we go again. Just says that even though, first time he's coaching everything, but when the Wallabies are winning, it completely changes everything. It's like any sport. When your national side is doing so much better, or your national side's going really good, then everyone is up and about and they want to play that sport. Like, you got obviously kids that want to play that sport because they're replicating their favorite players or whatever it is, So, yeah.
Well, the great thing about the new Eddie Jones era is it gives hope for every park footballer around the country, because Vunivalu can't get picked for Queensland but get picked for his country. So there's plenty of good rugby players out there in New South Wales who can't make New South Wales and might get picked for Australia going on that model. So Mitchy Briggs, he might be up for a call-up.
Yeah, he could be. I think it's tough. Like, because I was looking around other competitions as well, and I think some of the other regions of New South Wales country are obviously a lot different to us, and there's some clubs have to travel 3 hours to their closest game, or just to a game, Whereas us, it's a little bit different. So I think that, imagine those numbers. I can't imagine any of our clubs traveling 3 hours on a regular basis or 2 hours or whatever it's going to be. When it's a big away game, you have to do it. But it's a different client, a different culture around the clubs as well.
Big time.
And
We're too comfortable. We are too comfortable, too spoiled in regards to, realistically, most of our matches are within half hour, 40 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. And then I was looking at, say, the Newcastle competition. So, similar, they got 6 teams in there. So the Premier 1 competition has 6 teams at the moment. And the results just on the weekend, you look at it and go, well, that's a pretty good scoreline. It's like 35-29, 43-10. That's again, that was against the lowest place side as well, Southern Beaches, and then 23-20. So these are close games. And I was looking at it going, well, that's kind of what you want your competition to be, right? Like you've got Southern Beaches, it looks like the ones that are sort of copping those score lines of 50-7 roughly every, most weeks. But apart from that, everything seems pretty close and every team can beat every club can beat every club. But we were that in COVID, we were that probably 2 years ago where we had 8 teams and it was so close. It was only really Gosford at the bottom. Wee was in a position where they were really challenging for the finals, but probably just not there. And everybody was very competitive. And every week we were saying we got no idea who wins. Flip a coin. And every week we'll split those games. So we're currently in a spot where we're not, where we clearly have a divide in the table where that was really on show last week, where you had all the top teams versus all the bottom teams and the scorelines absolutely blew out. So back to what you were saying before, it is a tough one because if you just said, well, look, let's just say we got 7 genuinely competitive teams in Premier 1. So if you were to scrap Lake Macquarie and Woy from Premier 1 because you wanted to have a competitive Premier 1, you're left with those 7 teams. And, is 7 a good number? Like personally, I think 8 works awesome. But is 7 a good number? And then you've got real quality. But then you've got Lake Macquarie and you've got Woy, which are 2 regions that have the potential to grow. By putting them, I suppose, down to President's Cup with the systems that we've got in place at the moment, does that stifle that growth? And that again, you can argue the point both ways of this. There's no real right or wrong answer. I personally, being in the position before where just going to do that your mic thing again, mate. It's your mics. Something's going on with your mic. Is someone having a shower?
That would be my wife cooking in the background.
Okay, no worries. I thought she was having a shower, and I thought, can you maybe turn the camera angle the other way, please, mate? So I think with I can hear this, sorry. And I've as someone who's come through that part and been through a club is really struggling, and then seeing that improvement and knowing the culture has to be there. I think the club, if clubs are there and they're getting smacked and players don't want to turn up and players don't want to play, well, I think that's known within the club then that this isn't something that's going to be productive moving forward. Whereas if you've got players, and I don't know too much about Lake Macquarie, and it'd be interesting, from all reports we've heard, amazing group of people who are willing to turn up every week and just happy to learn and play the game of rugby. And unfortunately, that's where you get blowout score lines. Is that a horrible thing for community sport when you've got people who are just want to improve and they're not cracking the shits and they play in the right spirit of the game? What's the message that we want to sort of send? It is a tough one, mate. I've got no solutions at all. I'm a fan of what is happening at the moment, but I also see the other side of it where the score lines don't look good. And I'll be completely honest, look at the Woy situation. I'm only saying that because I've had the experience and I've seen the players. A really good bunch of dedicated players, but they're not first grade material. They're learning the game of rugby. They can be probably in 2 years' time, but they are not there at the moment, and that's very clear. And you've got some players who definitely are, like Max Edwards, Casey Wood, for those sorts of players, but that's not 15 of them. And sometimes they get to the point where there's injured, and that can mean unsafe as well. So it is a hard one because if you take away Premier 1 and 2 and you become a President's Cup team, what is the impact that does to your club? Because it's very hard for juniors to come through and want to play President's Cup. Like, I know if I was coming through and I know, look, Woy's got a 3rd grade, it's like, no, well, I'm going to somewhere over there because I want to play competitive rugby. So there's the catch-22, I suppose, with that as well. And again, there is no correct solution to any of this. It's really on the clubs to try and to get stronger. That's what it's on. And the clubs are trying to get stronger, but as you have with community sports, you have clubs go through patches, and they, sometimes it's stronger times, other times you're on the verge of folding, and we do get clubs that have folded obviously many times in the past with what's happening. So
yeah, mate, difficult times, but patience and support I think might be the key to getting us into a bit more of a competitive unit. But obviously, a lot of people working very hard. No clear answers at this point in time, though, I don't think.
yeah, I can see with that one. I think a big thing is the Rugby World Cup, everything that's coming around for publicity and getting Australian rugby in the media, that is going to play a part as well with people wanting to come and play. And I can see the impact of that on those younger players as well, from someone like Max Edwards, who's just saying, come and play rugby. And they're like, well, I never heard of rugby before. Well, you have now.
Yeah.
Come down and play it. You're going to have a blast. And they go, yeah, that was awesome. That was really good. It's getting that word out more, because we've got to obviously grow the game a lot more. So, yeah, we're in a very interesting spot, mate. But I think it's something that will come up in conversations many a times over the next few months leading into finals and obviously into next season.
Absolutely.
Well, we've got six. We got no men's this weekend, only women's, and we've got, after this weekend, we've got 6 rounds left until finals, which kick off in September. So get down to Carrong Oval this weekend at 10:30, and that'll do us, mate. Anything else?
Sounds good to me, pal. Get down, support the women. See ya.